There's enough of that. Let's pray. Jesus, we love you and we thank you for another day on this earth. Lord, blessing to people as you have. Let it be a what a blessing it is to be able to serve in the capacity of this great city. And Lord, I pray that you just bless each and every one. God, I ask for prosperity, peace, happiness, and joy. Allow our actions, our word, our conduct to represent such. Again, we thank you for allowing us to be able to serve you. And Lord, we serve you to the day of your return. We ask this in Jesus' name.
Amen. Now, while he walks back, let me tell you a little bit about Buster. Graduated from Monroe in 1988, correct, Buster? I'm going to say 1988. He's at Annie Mary Baptist Church, have a very, very strong youth program, and if you just listen to the man talks, he has that sweet, gentle spirit that I really admire. Very, very down-to-earth, good man, and glad that he's a part of our community. Thank you, Buster, for coming in. First thing, before we do roll call agenda, all that, I do want David to follow up about Robert Knox. You had something to say?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd asked the mayor if I could say a few words tonight about Bob Knox. I think most of the council members, particularly those who've been around a while, knew Bob. Bob passed away last week, January 4th. And sometimes I think we don't have enough recollection about people who have really made organizations like GMA. And Bob Knox was certainly one of those people. He was, when he was elected president of GMA, he was the youngest person I think ever elected as president of GMA. He served as the mayor of Thompson for almost 30 years. He did all kinds of things, not just for the city of Thompson and McDuffie County, but for the state through GMA. And the way I got to know Bob was through our mutual friend, Jim Burgess, because Jim had been the executive director of GMA. And many years ago, when I was mayor, we were going through some rough times. Mr. Thompson, I'm sure, recalls. And Bob came up here and helped me out, gave me a lot of great advice. That's the kind of person he was, and that's the kind of dedication that he had. And I have to say this. I felt a real commonality with Bob because he's a graduate double dog, had a law degree also from Georgia. And he had 3 daughters, as I do, and that made him about as crazy as I am, I guess. But he was just a wonderful, wonderful person, and I just think it's important that we acknowledge that and acknowledge what he did. And as all of you know, he's in the GMA Hall of Fame, and they named the Leadership Institute after him. So I just felt compelled to acknowledge Bob.
Thank you, David. You mentioned Jim Burgess as well. He was recognized in, I think, our most recent Georgia cities and at our conference last summer. Great folks. Now, I'll call this meeting to order. Please let the record reflect that all members of council are present. It's a big day. We have 2 brand spanking new folks with Julie and Adrian, and we're really excited that Greg's back, and of course, Moshe and Lee are going to continue. So thank you all for being here. I really appreciate you and appreciate your service. I need a motion for the approval of the agenda, please.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And I'll need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Moving to the approval of the consent agenda. This is the council minutes, executive session minutes, planning commission minutes, historic preservation, Downtown Development, Convention and Visitors Bureau, all from November and December. I need a motion for the approval of the consent agenda, please.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Moesha. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. We don't have anybody who signed up for public forum tonight, so we'll skip right to the city administrator update, please, Logan.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. The biggie going on right now and just around the corner is the Monroe Codapalooza. You may have seen some of these fun flyers floating around online and around town. So basically what this is we're trying to do this as a follow-up to our comprehensive plan. We had a really successful public engagement campaign with the comprehensive plan back in 2022. And then from your input throughout some work sessions, we explored the possibility of diving into the form-based code. And form-based codes are a little different than our traditional Euclidean zoning, whereas the codes address the relationship of the building to the people and other buildings around them, the built environment, rather than just solely looking at uses. Now, uses will still be a component of our codes, but we want to do some really robust public education, also get a lot of public feedback on how all that will work. And this is going to be a good interactive series hosted by one of our consultants that'll start January 17th. That's a Wednesday. That'll be the opening presentation. Thursday, January 18th at the Wayfair. There'll be some interactive sessions there. And then Friday, January 19th at Team Up Mentoring in their event space. There'll be some more interactive sessions. And then Saturday, January 20th, will be some more sessions, and then it'll close out with a work in progress presentation. Mr. Callender, do you want to add anything to this?
The only thing I would just emphasize is that all of these meetings are open to the public, and we encourage everyone to attend. Their team will be here. It will be intensive. They're going to be very responsive to the public, and we're going to be set up in each location with more than enough room to accommodate, hopefully, the expected crowds that we'll have. So there are also options to, if you're not able to attend Wednesday or Saturday, those will be available by a Zoom, the ones that are at 6 through 8. So if you're not able to make it, obviously you could get online and actually participate with questions through Zoom, or you can simply watch it through YouTube. And that's all I had to add.
And ultimately, it's about preserving the character we have, and then also how do we enhance that as we go through some of our growing pains. So we want to make sure we grow in the proper way that our public wants us to grow, and that you, as elected representatives, want us to grow as well. One other thing I wanted to note, 2023 was a great year for downtown and our central business district, which is actually a little bit smaller than our downtown. We used the Placer AI data analytics to find out how many people shopped and dined and just enjoyed downtown Monroe with us. We had 2.1 million individual visits, and so that only counts the visits of some amount of time, and it averaged out to 91 minutes per visit of shopping and dining, so that's pretty impressive. So hopefully we'll carry that momentum through 2024. In addition to that, Monroe Pavilion, as it's getting built out, hosted 2.6 million visits. So that was pretty impressive. That's a lot of tax dollars that are being spent right here in Monroe. So it's good for Monroe and Walton County.
That's 1 million more people than 2022,
Yes.
and 1 minute more each.
Pretty strong.
That's
Pretty strong.
That's pretty impressive. Are there any questions for Logan? Hearing none, let's move to you, Chris.
Thank you. So we had a little bit of rain overnight and this morning. Don't know if you were in town and noticed. I know between streets and with Jeremiah and Central Services, Buildings, Grounds with Croy, Rodney, you got lit up with phone calls. We all did. And I was going to say, too, leaf season is still going on. A lot of those got relocated in the process of all this. Solid waste routes are behind schedule, obviously, just because of everything. So if there are any other problems that any of you hear of, be sure to reach out to Public Works, to Jeremiah. We'll get crews out there. We'll take a look, try to get some ditches cleaned out, pipes and whatnot before we have more rain coming in, what looks like on Friday. But on to airport, I wanted to touch on, we talked about the extra special people having their Fall Fest for the first time here this past year. Well, we have secured them to come back this second year, and we want to do a little bit of a bigger festival there. We had a little over 3,000 people this past year, so hopefully we can double that, tie it into some other things that we do here in town. It'll be in October of this year. Continuing on the airport, you'll see taxiway construction here with a crack seal sometime this spring. I mentioned leaf season goes through the end of February, and we'll be out there as best we can, cleaning up streets, curb, gutter, everything with what got washed this morning, last night. And then two, I think, a few minutes before I came down here, I read an email to where we had gotten approval from the DOT's consultant for our TAP grant process, that we'll put out RFQs sometime later this month for the Davis and McDaniel areas. So that was a big win, and we'll get all that going. And obviously TAP grants, that's a long process. So just because the bid's going out, construction is going to be, 3, 4, 5 years out, time you go through every process you have to go through, but we're at least started and we're there. First event of the season, of the year's right around the corner, the car show on March 16th. We'll open up the town green this year too. May 3rd will be our first Friday night concert, and I'll be glad to take any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Bailey? Good news is the Public Works guys and the leaf guys don't have to go by my house. Because all my leaves are in John Lucas's yard, so.
We'll expect a call from him then.
Thank you, Chris. Moving to new business, Mr. Calendar, for the conditional use at 907 Amber Trail.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The request before the city council this evening is a conditional use, and the property is at 907 Amber Trail. The property is currently zoned R1, large lot, single-family residential. And in that zoning district, childcare homes are allowed as conditional uses with city council approval. And you can see on the screen behind you is a snapshot of the actual residence itself. Two-car driveway and two-car garage in front, and ample on-street parking. So the request is to host as many as 6 children on a daily basis, and the times that this would operate would be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and they're proposing to accommodate childcare for children up to 12 years of age. Pretty basic request, one similar to one you have seen recently near the end of 2023. The recommendation of the Planning Commission was approval subject to the 2 conditions. The first condition stated the child care home shall operate as described in the narrative and shall not provide care to more than 6 children at any time. Second condition stated that if the property is transferred to a new owner or if it's sold, the conditional use approval shall become null and void and shall not transfer with the title of the property. That's all that I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Brad. Are there any questions for Mr. Calendar? Hearing none, I'll declare this portion of the meeting open for the purpose of public input. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in favor of this child care home? Yes, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you. Your name, please?
Nikisha Ward. I am a resident of Walton County. I've lived here for 18 years. Raised my family here. Both of my children has finished school now, and I've sent one to college and one is finishing in May. I have been an educator for 20 years, and I would like to start a home to be able to bridle kids, to encourage them, to teach them, and to give back to our community. So if y'all would give me the honor to be able to run a home daycare, I would love that.
I certainly appreciate your coming in, and thank you so much. And if we have any questions, just stay right there for me, okay?
Okay.
All right, is there anyone here who'd like to speak against this? Hearing none, I'll declare that portion of the meeting closed, and we might yell at you in a bit. I kind of feel like this could be a slam dunk, so just have a seat, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Moving to impact fees, Mr. Calendar.
like to present Miss Marilyn Hall from Hall Consulting.
Hey, Marilyn.
She was, as you may recall, Mr. Mayor, she was our consultant who was hired last year, and she's been in front of council before regarding impact fees.
Right.
Thank you,
so
Marilyn.
much for coming.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay,
Yeah.
do you want to start, or you want to have questions first?
I was just going to start and then take questions at the end.
Do it.
I've got a presentation. I'm going to be talking fast and
Okay.
staying on target to not all evening. I've got a lot to talk to you guys about. We're going to be talking about the, actually, Mr. Mayor, would you like me to take questions first or wait till the end?
It's up to you.
I'd like to wait to the end because I might answer them as we go.
All right.
Okay. I'm going to be talking to you about the capital improvements element and impact fee study that we completed, or that we're working on, and we have a draft. I'll be, let's see, I don't remember how this works, right? Do I have to turn-
I can run the slides from,
It's on.
There you go.
Well, I can just keep going until we figure this out. I will be, there we go, talking about the comprehensive plan. I'll be reviewing it briefly. It's been a while since we've talked about it, and we've got some new council members that would need to be updated a little bit. And I'll talk about, review some impact fees, like what they are, and then we'll go through step by step the maximum allowable impact fee calculation. We'll go over some examples from other places and talk about next steps. First thing is the comprehensive plan recap. Back in 2020, Logan and both Mr. Probst and Mayor Howard have talked about this. In 2022, the city adopted the comprehensive plan update. What it is a 2-year blueprint to guide growth, and it becomes the basis for future zoning and capital facilities decisions over the next 5 years, and it's updated over 5 years. It's updated every 5 years, and it's required by DCA and the state to maintain state and federal funding. These are things like CDBG funds and ARPA funds. There are a bunch of elements in the comprehensive plan, including economic development, population, housing, land use, and development. Essentially, a comprehensive plan is a strategic document that outlines a community's vision for its future growth, development, and overall improvement. It's a broad, holistic document that considers various aspects of the community life and development. That's the comprehensive plan. The capital improvements element is included in some comprehensive plans and is required by communities that charge impact fees. We call it a CIE, and it's a specific component within the comp plan that focuses on the community's infrastructure needs and capital projects, identifying and prioritizing major public facilities and infrastructure projects. And in the case for Monroe, we looked at parks, fire protection, public safety, transportation, and libraries. The CIE includes a schedule for implementing these projects and estimates the associated costs and serves as a tool for coordinating and planning capital expenditures to support the overall goals outlined in the comprehensive plan. Now, there are several slides that you all have in your handouts that you can read through if you want to. But what I want to make clear is that the CIE does not create any new capital projects. Instead, it lays them all out in one place across all departments over the next 5 years. Essentially, it combines all of the director's budgetary needs and over the course of the next 5 years and shows their funding sources. So here we've got transportation, stormwater, parks and rec, and library. Let's see, got lots of pages here. Not going to go through them because we'd be here all night. A lot of things on here, and the big question is, how can the city pay for all these things over the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years, especially when so much of it is driven by new development? And that's where impact fees come in. And you may have noticed, as you did your homework and looked through these, that a lot of these items have impact fees as the source of funds, or are assisted by impact fees. So it's a combination of general funds and impact fees. So these are items that are eligible for impact fees. Now, what are impact fees? In 1990, the Georgia Development Impact Fee Act, which we call DEFA, was enacted into law. DEFA made impact fees possible in Georgia. They are one-time fees charged to developers to help defray the costs of expanding capital facilities to serve new growth. DEFA enables local governments to charge new development for a proportionate share of infrastructure capacity that it requires. And the act also places restrictions on the categories of capital facilities for which new development can be charged and establishes rules for administration, collection, calculation, pretty much everything that has to do with the impact fees. And the idea is to ensure that communities have adequate public facilities as they grow and that growth is planned and orderly. DEFA, I already talked about that. All right. Oops, went too far. Okay. DEFA allows for limited types of capital improvements to be funded with impact fees. An ordinance must be adopted. You need to have a capital improvements element in your comprehensive plan. An advisory committee where at least half are from the development, building, or real estate industries must have provided input. And you need to have 2 public hearings. This is actually the second of 2 public hearings. We had one last year to introduce the council to the concept. And we did have some advisory committee meetings, and we had folks provide input into the study. What is an impact study? The purpose of the study is to evaluate the current and future needs of public facilities and services. It analyzes the anticipated growth and development patterns in the area and estimates the additional demand that new development will place on existing infrastructure. The slide here shows the key components of an impact fee study. We're actually going to be going over these, so I'm not going to read it. And impact fees can pay for capital improvements, and this quote on the slide is, actually I don't think it's in your handouts, but the slide, it's directly from DEFA. It says capital improvements means an improvement with a useful life of 10 years or more by new construction or other action which increases the service capacity of a public facility. And it also, this is not up there, has to be $5,000 or more. And this means that things like police stations are eligible for impact fees. Things like police cars are not, because they don't last 10 years. In Monroe, again, park and recreation, open space, fire protection, police and courts, transportation and libraries were considered for impact fees. In order to calculate the fees, we need to know what we're going to measure. For parks, we look at acres or quantity of amenities, and depending on what aspect of the park we're talking about. For example, open space, we use acres. For basketball courts, we use quantity. For fire protection, we use square feet of fire stations and number of heavy vehicles. Transportation, we look at lane miles, and for libraries, we look at square feet. And you'll notice up there that we have quantity per dwelling unit, and we also have something called day-night population. And we use day-night population for transportation, police and courts, and fire protection because they serve businesses as much as residents. Parks and libraries mostly serve residents, so dwelling units is used. I was going to define what that day and night population was later, but I'll do it now because it's up here now. It is the population essentially during the day. So it includes people who are in the city and then who live in the city, but then also people who come into work in the city. And so we combine population and employment numbers to get that day-night population. And that is important for services that also serve visitors and employees. All right. Next, I'm going to go through all the steps, step by step. I'm not going to do that right on this slide. Instead, I'd like to point out the term on number 8 called maximum allowable impact fees. That means the maximum impact fee the city can legally charge. That is what this study calculates. It will be up to the city to then determine what the actual fees will be after it adopts the capital improvements program. So we're not presenting what the fees are going to be tonight. We're presenting the calculation and what you can legally charge as an impact fee based on the calculations. That's why at the end I'm going to be showing you examples from other places to get an idea of what would be reasonable. All right, the first step is to calculate some growth forecasts. The population of Monroe is expected to increase by more than 10,000 people by 2043. That's an increase of 63%. Employment is expected to increase by even more, about 130%. I'm going through this really fast because, again, we'd be here all night if I went through every line. You have this in your handouts. Day-night population, as I said earlier, refers to the number of people, including workers, who are present during normal business hours. And sometimes this is referred to as daytime population. Anyway, the day-night population is expected to increase by 19,740 people over the next 20 years, which is about an 84% increase. That 19,740 number will come in handy during the calculation. Okay. For all services, the existing level of service is the desired future level of service, except for police and courts. You recently invested in a very large facility designed to serve the city for the next 20 years or more. So in that case, which in police and courts, the level of service is actually going to be the same as the level of service in 2043. So the building was designed to accommodate all the new residents. So instead of paying as you go, it'll be repaying yourself back for an investment already made. And that's just for police and courts. Okay. I'm going to run through the calculations for fire stations, and this will illustrate the basic calculations that are used for all the fees. And so we'll jump right in. We already saw that the current day-night population of Monroe, the current daytime population is 23,522. The existing fire station is 9,898 square feet, so we divide 9,898 square feet by 23,522 to get the current level of service, which is 0.421 square feet per day-night population. And since the current level of service is what we're trying to maintain, we will need to maintain 0.421 square feet per day-night population. We next need to determine how many square feet is needed. We do this by multiplying projected additional day-night population by needed capacity. And that is where that 19,741 number comes in, and that is the additional day-night population in 2043. And the answer is 8,307 additional square feet is needed to accommodate the new growth for fire stations. To arrive at the cost, the next step is to arrive at the cost per unit of new population. And we take the cost of the additional capacity and divide it by the needed capacity. The cost per square foot of new fire station is $550 per square foot. That is derived by basically looking at case studies and what other fire stations in Georgia and in the region actually cost back in about June of last year. We also used the Turner Construction Cost Index. We multiplied that by 8,300 square feet of needed capacity to get $4,568,850, which is the cost, which would be the additional cost, which would be the cost of fire station capacity for new development. And then we divide that by the new day-night population to get $231.44, and that is the cost per square foot of fire station per is that right? Let me read. Okay. I'm reading and looking at the screen. I'm getting myself all confused. It's really not that complicated. We divide it by the new daylight night population to get $231.44 cost per new population. You have a question? You look like you have a
I do, but I haven't asked for questions yet.
Okay, write them down, and then you can bombard me afterwards, okay? All right. We just calculated the cost for future fire stations, but additional ladder trucks and engines are also needed. When you do the same calculations for heavy equipment and add it to the fire station cost, you get a total cost of fire protection capital of $364.94 per day-night population. Now, DEFA requires the impact fee include a credit for future contributions from new development to system facility funding and it's based on historical funding patterns. As an example, if a developer pays an impact fee for a new residential home, that home will pay property taxes or other user fees that are anticipated to be available to pay for system improvements, and the developer should be given credit in today's dollars for those future payments. Here you see the estimated taxes that will go towards fire protection between now and 2043. It is $509,307. We divide that amount by the projected additional day-night population to get a credit of $25.80 per day-night population. You apply that credit. The resulting fee after subtracting the credit is $339.14 per day-night population. And again, I underlined maximum allowable. This is the maximum allowable impact fee for fire protection. What does this mean? Okay, here's a table. You have to look at your sheets. But this is a clip from the study that shows what the maximum allowable impact fees would be for certain types of new development. The fire protection fee is $339.14 multiplied by 2.49 persons per household. 2.49 persons per household is the average number of people in a house here in Monroe. And this becomes the fire protection impact fee for a new single-family home. When you add all these fees together for parks, transportation, public safety, and libraries, the total maximum allowable impact fee is $11,176 per single-family home. Again, this is the maximum legally defensible impact fee the city could charge. And then here's a chart. Again, you guys have it in front of you. It's basically up to you to decide what impact fees the city actually charges, as long as they are equal to or below the maximum allowable impact fees. Cities throughout Georgia charge impact fees. This chart shows the impact fees charged by other cities for a single-family home. They range from about $8,000 in the city of Milton to about $230 in the city of Hampton. That's the range that we found. Counties also charge impact fees, including Walton County. The biggest county fee we found was Effingham County, who charges $4,600 per single-family home, and Fayette County on the lower end was $601. So that's the range that counties use. And again, your maximum allowable is just over $11,000. So that's the CIE and impact fee calculation in a nutshell, and the resulting impact fee. Again, maximum allowable impact fee. The next steps, well, you guys adopted on June 14th, 2022, the comprehensive plan, and then in April of last year, I presented the methodology, not as in much detail because we hadn't quite worked it out. And then today is a transmittal hearing to the Regional Commission and DCA. What that means is the capital improvements element needs to be part of, as an element of your comprehensive plan. And to amend the comprehensive plan, you have to go through the same process that you do to adopt a comprehensive plan. The two hearings and then this transmittal hearing are part of that. And the transmittal hearing is where you send the CIE and the impact fee study to the Regional Commission and to DCA, and they look at it and make sure it's right and that it's consistent with a comprehensive plan, which is a requirement, and that it's consistent with what's going on in the region. And by the end of March-ish, the Regional Commission and the Department of Community Affairs will give feedback, and once that feedback is addressed, the capital improvements element can be adopted, and you still don't have impact fees at that point. At that point, you can adopt your impact fee ordinance, and they can be adopted, and the fees can be adopted and implemented. So that's not happening tonight. Tonight is the capital improvements element and impact fee study to transmit for state review. Now, questions?
Questions are always better after the,
Yes, and I'm here with Bobby Sills. He's the spreadsheet guy, and I'm the talking
I
person.
didn't know you had that nickname. Thank you, Bob, for coming. Are there
my
any questions
spreadsheet
for
guy.
Marilyn? I do. And it's one, and I think fairly simple. We've had a pretty high inflationary environment over the last 18 months. So if we were to come in and say, we want X, this is just down the road, are we stuck with that number annually? Is it 10 years? How do we,
So since the CIE is included in the comprehensive plan, it should be updated every 5 years.
okay,
The big picture, but then it actually has to be the administrative snapshot of it has to be submitted to the regional commission every year. So it will be updated every 5 years, but you're welcome to look at it and update it as any time.
just looking at cost of a new fire station at $500 a square foot, didn't know where that's gonna sit in 4 years.
Right, it's all in today's dollars, and when you update it, it'll be in those dollars that day.
Okay.
So yes, it can be, the costs can increase over time.
Okay.
Right?
That was right. I don't think I had any other questions, right?
Does anybody charge the maximum fee that you know of? Just a question.
I don't think so. I think 11,000 might be more, I mean, more than the community would want.
I didn't see an 11,000 on this.
No, no, Milton being at 8,000, that's the highest I've seen, and I'm sure their allowable is higher than that.
Okay. Thank you, Marilyn.
And I'll stick around for the discussion later.
Yes, ma'am, I appreciate it.
Okay.
I'll declare this portion of the meeting open for the purpose of public input. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in favor of the transmittal? Is there anyone here who'd like to speak against the transmittal of the impact fee study? Hearing none, thank you for coming. We'll come back and revisit that in a minute. I'll declare that portion of the meeting closed. Moving to new business, I have an election of the vice mayor. We, over the last few years, have had Wayne Adcock, who's wonderful, had Larry Bradley, who's fantastic. Larry has chosen to resign, and now we need somebody new. I don't think we need any discussion on this, but I'll take the
Mr.
motion.
Mayor, if I might have the floor.
Yes, sir.
At this time, I would like to make a nomination. I think it's about time that we had a woman serve in that capacity. I've had some deep discussions with the gentlewoman from the first district about this. And so it is my pleasure to nominate my good friend, Ms. Malcolm, to serve as the vice mayor.
That is fantastic. Thank you. I have a motion for Ms. Malcolm to be the vice mayor, and who wants to second? I'm gonna give that one to Ms. Crawford. We'll hold yours for a real nomination. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, everybody says?
Aye.
I'm gonna say that was unanimous. Thank you, motion carries. Congratulations, Lee, and thank you. Moving to the conditional use of 907 Amber Trail, this is for council members only discussion or to entertain a motion. Is there anyone who'd like to discuss or?
I do have one question, Mr. Mayor. Does this child care facility have to be licensed by the state?
Yeah, yes, sir, Mr. Thompson. They are required to have this conditional use approval so they can get their license from the state.
Motion?
And is it the state's responsibility to ensure that they don't exceed the 6
I
children?
believe the applicant may be able to help me answer that question, but they are not permitted under the licensure, and the definitions in your zoning ordinance are similar with the state, the limitation on the number of children and how they're defined. So our limitation of 6 matches the state limitation for for the type of license that she would have. So obviously, if she wished to violate that, she would violate not just your conditional use approval, but her state licensure.
So Ms. Short, the state would come in and take a look at what you got?
Yes, they have to come in to license the place.
Okay,
And it's only six.
That's
It's
fine.
only 6 children that I can have in my home
okay,
at all times.
okay. And thank you so much for doing that, because that's definitely needed.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Boyce and a second by Mr. Thompson. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Thank you again, I appreciate your coming in. Next, the discussion of impact fees. I'll open this to council members only. Is there any questions, comments, discussion?
Just one comment, Mr. Mayor. I think it's certainly time we did this. It's the fair thing to do. The way we're doing it now, I think is unfair to the people who are already here. And everybody's heard the formulas. You know how it works. It's very fair. It's a good thing. And I move to adopt the resolution.
1 second, I'll come right back to that.
All right.
Would anyone like to have the resolution read? Paul, is there anything I'm missing?
No, it's just a transmittal resolution.
Thank you. So you want to make the motion, David?
I move to adopt the resolution.
I have a motion to adopt and a second by Mr. Boyce. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the resolution of the City of Civility, I've asked Freddie Broom from GMA to come talk a little bit about that with us. Do you mind stepping forward, Freddie? Before he gets started, for those of you who've been involved with GMA, you know, and for those of you who will be involved with GMA in the next few weeks, they hire really, really well. Freddie's fantastic. You all know Sadie. Sherry Bailey will be here tomorrow. Emily Davenport's one of the nicest folks you know. So just a great quality of person who works there. And I've asked Freddie to talk about City of Civility and why it's important.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for inviting me, Mayor and council members. Freddie Broom from GMA. My current role is Director of Equity and Inclusion. So my job is to travel across the state and find a way to get people to get along with one another. So it's a wonderful job, right? But one of our new programs that we created was called Embrace Civility. And that's a program that we was looking at how can we continue to provide our resources and our tools for our elected officials to find ways to conduct the business they need to conduct. And we was seeing that a lot of times that their differences was getting in the way of them to come together to make decisions. And so we said, well, let's find a way to make them understand the importance of being more civil towards one another so they can learn it's okay to agree to disagree, but we still have business that we need to do. And so that's what Embrace Civility program is about. It's about finding a way for you to embrace your civility and understand the importance of working together and understand that there are times when you are going to disagree, to agree. And that's fine, because we don't want everyone to be agreeing on everything, because somebody's probably not saying doing something right if everyone is always agreeing to that. And so that's what we tried to do with our Embrace Civility program. So we're excited that you have it on the agenda tonight as a resolution. We currently have 108 cities that are participating in our program, and that's a great number out of 537 cities. So we're hoping by the end of this year that number will double. But we're just taking it one step at a time. So I'm traveling to all different cities to get everyone to understand the importance of what our Embrace Civility program is about. And it's simple as just going over the pledge, and I have these if you don't have any on the pledge, and then it's adopting the resolution. And it's saying that we are committed to one another, to be civil towards one another while we conduct the business of the city. And that's it. And it's as simple as that. We always get the question asked, well, what happens if someone says something and now they're considered being uncivil? Is GMA going to come in and take away our certification? No, we don't do that, because we're allowing you to take ownership of your actions. We're allowing you to be committed to one another and hold each other accountable, and saying that at the end of the day, we all agree that we were going to work civilly towards one another. And that's what the program is really about, is getting to work together and understand that we have jobs to do, but we can still disagree in a civil manner. And so our Embrace Civility program is really, really making a difference. I have elected officials come to me all the time and say that, you know, when you look at the 9 pillars, one of them is quit taking it personal. And I've had some elected officials come to me and tell me that when they've had their executive sessions, they've had to remind one of their peers, quit taking it personal, because we've agreed to be civil towards one another. And it's about, you know, managing your emotions. And you can see I always wear a pen. So anyone that goes into my presentations, I've always hand out pens and says, be kind to one another. And that's another thing that we're trying to get everyone to understand, the importance of kindness. We need more kindness working together. And that's what it's really about. And so I'm excited that you have it on your resolution to be able to be one of our cities of civility, and we can recognize you in June at our convention as one of our cities of civility. And I would love to answer any questions that you may have about our Embrace Civility program.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions for Mr. Broom? I've carried this with me to almost every meeting that we've had since it was first introduced, and waiting for this particular meeting to get this done. I would like to have the resolution read, Paul, if you don't mind doing that.
Be happy to, Mayor. This is a resolution pledging to practice and promote civility in the city of Monroe. Whereas the City Council of the City of Monroe, the governing body of the City of Monroe, Georgia, recognizes that robust debate and the right to self-expression as protected by the First Amendment to the United States Constitution are fundamental rights and essential components of democratic self-governance. And whereas the City Council further recognizes that the public exchange of diverse ideas and viewpoints is necessary to the health of the community and the quality of governance in the municipality. And whereas the members of the City Council, as elected representatives of the community and stewards of the public trust, recognize their special role in modeling open, free, and vigorous debate while maintaining the highest standards of civility, honesty, and mutual respect. And whereas City Council meetings are open to the public, and thus how city officials execute their legal duties is on public display. And whereas civility by city officials in the execution of their legislative duties and responsibilities fosters respect, kindness, and thoughtfulness between city officials, avoiding personal ill will which results in actions being directed to issues made in the best interest of residents. And whereas civility between city officials presents an opportunity to set a positive example of conduct and promotes thoughtful debate and discussion of legislative issues, resulting in better public policy and a more informed electorate, while also encouraging civil behavior between residents. And whereas civility between city officials is possible if each member of the elected body remembers that they represent not only themselves, but the constituents of their district and their city. And whereas in order to publicly declare its commitment to civil discourse and to express its concern for the common good and well-being of all of its residents, the City Council is determined to adopt this resolution. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. Section 1, the City of Monroe pledges to practice and promote civility within the governing body as a means of conducting legislative duties and responsibilities. Section 2, the elected officials of the City Council enact this civility pledge to build a stronger and more prosperous community by advocating for civil engagement, respecting others and their viewpoints, and finding solutions for the betterment of the City of Monroe. Section 3, this pledge strives to ensure that all communication be open, honest, and transparent, as this is vital for cultivating trust and relationships. Section 4, this pledge strives to show courtesy by treating all colleagues, staff, and members of the public in a professional and respectful manner, whether in person, online, or in written communication, especially when we disagree. Section 5, this pledge strives to ensure mutual respect to achieve municipal goals, recognizing that patience, tolerance, and civility are imperative to success, and demonstrates the Council's commitment to respect different opinions by inviting and considering different perspectives, allowing space for ideas to be expressed, debated, opposed, and clarified in a constructive manner. Section 6, this pledge demonstrates our commitment against violence and incivility in all their forms, whenever and wherever they occur in all our meetings and interactions. Section 7, the City of Monroe expects members of the public to be civil in its discussion of matters under consideration by and before the City Council with elected officials, staff, and each other. So adopted this 9th day of January 2024. That is the resolution, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal. Are there any questions for Paul? Any questions for Freddie? Would somebody like to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say I appreciate the fact that you spearheaded this and that you went after this and have continually pushed this. I know you've been doing this for a while, and I appreciate the kind hand that it shows towards everybody in our community and all our council members. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Make a motion by Mr. Gregory, and thank you, by the way. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm gonna go with Ms. Brown. Sorry.
That's perfect.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes unanimously, like I told you. Thank you for coming in, Freddie. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Yes, sir. Moving to district items, Ms. Malcolm,
No, don't have anything that I know of right off.
Ms. Crawford,
I don't have anything.
Mr. Boyce.
No, sir.
I'm going to go with Mr. Thompson.
I'll be quiet tonight.
Ms. Sims.
No.
Ms. Brown. Mr. Gregory.
Thanks, everybody, and all they do.
Mr. Dickinson.
And further,
Well, guess what? I have some. Tonight, I put some stuff at your seats before the meeting started. We've talked about the generational diversity chart that I received a couple of years ago. I've shared it before, and I just want to do it again. And if you take a look at the way different generations make decisions and the way they communicate, you really see things that we need to talk about. Baby boomers make decisions based on hierarchy. Generation X make it based on, this is the way I want to do it, like a bull in a china shop. I moved to the really, really young people, and they want discussions like Chaz. So if you would, take a look at it, and it's real interesting in the way we treat each other and behave. I also put a handout for missing middle housing. I think I put that just at Lee's. Might have been one or two others. We are, if you're noticing, having an apartment boom, that we have over 1,000 apartments under construction in Sugar Hill right now, more than 1,000 in Athens right now. Snellville, Lilburn, Lawrenceville, just, they're popping up everywhere. The concern that I have is that Brad gets to fight battles every day about folks who want to come here and build something real nice. I know developers ever come in and said, I want to build something that you're not going to like 10 years from now. So it's a constant defense. But when it comes to these apartments in rezoning, I want to make sure that they're going to be what we need long-term. So just, if you would, take a look at that. I've also put committee assignments at your seats. I think it all looks really, really good, and I hope you do too. I want to remind you that our retreat is January 18th. Tomorrow and on the second and fourth Wednesdays through June, we have Workforce Wednesdays. Dessa Morris will be in here. I think she's been communicating with you too as well, ladies. That is for anybody who needs a job, anybody who wants a little bit better job. She'll be working with Department of Labor, working with some of our industries at Piedmont Industrial, as well as Summit Stanton Springs, to help put us all together. She has about 30,000 jobs that she needs to fill over the next 5 years, so her hands are full. Logan mentioned Codapalooza opening presentation is a week from tomorrow.
Okay, let me ask, can I ask about that?
Please.
Okay, that's at the Wayfair?
On the 18th, it will be. The Thursday session will be at the Wayfair.
On the 18th?
Yes. 19th will be at Team Up Mentoring at 601 South Madison.
And I have,
Do you know the time?
Yeah, so I've got those pulled up on the screen behind you, so
9 a.m. is the beginning. And like I said earlier, those 2 days specifically, and then some on the 20th will be very interactive. So it's not going to be like just somebody up here in a formal presentation. There'll be different tables and setups that people will go to, different sessions.
also tomorrow, we have several new mayors who'll be coming. Miss Bailey's bringing them for an introduction. Fred is going to be coming from Madison. We'll have David Keener from Social Circle. So collectively, we can teach them what not to do. Wanted to take just a minute. We have breast cancer has affected all of us, right? Family, friends, my sister, your daughter. So just when you make it home tonight, if you would, hit your knees and say a little prayer. It would mean a lot. When it's really tight, and it's something that we should all be afraid of, but we all just need to stay praying, okay? Sorry, Chris. Now, I need a motion to adjourn to executive session, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Chaz. Is there a second?
Second.
We'll give that one to Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We adjourn.